Hello and welcome to Nerdist Book Club live on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry's YouTube as well as Geek and Sundry's Twitch. I'm Hector Navarro and joining me is my longtime Alpha Book Club co-host, Miss Maude Garrett. Hello, Maude.
Hi
Hi.
guys. Oh my
Hi.
gosh, we finished this book, huh?
We did, yes. Rachel Heine, our lovely Rachel Heine, she is out tonight, but subbing in is Nerdist Book Club producer Steven Zerwinski. Steven, hi.
Hey all, good to be heard.
You have been doing such an amazing job producing and giving us notes for this book, and you have gone really deep with this. I actually wouldn't mind starting this conversation with you and just asking you the question that we ask everyone. How have you been finding this book? What was the start of it like? Now that we're at the end, how much has it changed for you? Are you enjoying it?
And Steven, if you want to go chapter by chapter from the beginning, catch up to where Maude and I are. Yeah.
I'll be honest. I know at the end of Dune, not that we dislike Dune, we just were like, oh, can't wait to read something a little easier next month. And then I started this one. I'm like, oh, I've betrayed my hosts with this one. Was a little worried to start. As soon as I got into the second chapter, I would kind of like hit the ground running. I was like, once it clicked real hard for me, and I was on board from then on out.
Well, like Maude said, man, your breakdowns of the script each week were essential. And I know that you were doing that work of like finding resources online, other breakdowns of the chapters. You provided us great resources. Like, to me, reading this book, if I had done this on my own, I don't know if I would have gotten through it. Truly. I don't know if I would have gotten through it. But the fact that it was a part of the show and that I knew each week that I get to go to our book club and refresh and study and learn and educate one another and share our opinions and thoughts, it gave me the understanding and the prep to be like, okay, let's get this next chunk. I'm ready to read it. Because if it was just on my own, like I said, don't know if I could have done it. David Nichols Jr. has a comment in the chat, says, hi, Steven, love the book club. Great job producing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's funny to talk audibly to the people I'm normally typing to chat with.
Steven's normally when Maude or I, or sometimes Rachel, oftentimes Rachel, say something really embarrassing or shocking, Steven is usually just there going, like, just shocked.
Yeah, dude. Well, sometimes it's like that. Yeah. I would have said yes. So
it's a lot of miming my emotion to y'all.
I'm actually wondering if the first chapter is supposed to, like, if you're in a relationship with me, push you away and make you like go, no, this is what it's going to be like. So you don't want it. And then when you actually go through it, you're like, this is actually really rewarding.
I would not be shocked like that, especially when I forget who brought it up a couple weeks ago, but just in one of the interviews with him where he's like, oh yeah, like I'm a writing teacher, and in this book I'm breaking all the rules that I would like fail a student for doing. Like I think it's all on purpose. There was another interview I read with them where the basically the tone of the interview, like reading between the lines, was like, ooh, this guy likes stirring the pot a little bit. Like this guy likes poking the bear.
Whether in every sense of the word.
Exactly. Whether through his writing or through like his life outside the writing.
Absolutely. And again, thank you, Steven, for filling in for Rach tonight. And a huge thanks to our viewers who have been following along with us every single week. Like we're describing, this book is very intense. And we're going to start the show with a bit of a content and trigger warning. The book deals with a lot of harsh actions and themes ranging from violence to assault. So take care when watching. Use discretion as to if this discussion is for you. But I am so excited to get back into discussing. This is our last week, our final week. Black Leopard, Red Wolf. We did it. 600 pages. We can knock out these 600 pagers like that, apparently.
We've been trained.
What's next? The Cimmerillion? What are we doing next? The Holy Bible? What are we doing next?
Not the Cimmerillion, please, no. I would.
I'm really excited about our next book, and we've already locked it in. I'm weeping in ecstaticness.
Yeah, we are going to be announcing that. Not that we haven't already online, but we're going to be announcing it at the end of the discussion.
Announcing the homework.
The homework specifically, how far you have to read. That's right. We've announced the book on the internet, but we're not going to say it until we get to the end. I'm very excited. So should we dive in? Do we want to do any other top of the show? Okay, fantastic. Let's do it.
I will actually. People
Yeah.
are saying that Jimmy in the chat is saying it was rewarding indeed. I feel like when I finish every single book, though. True Scorn wants to know what wine you're drinking, Stephen. This is like this is the first chance, so this is a big portion of book club. So,
yeah. Actually, I am drinking a nice blend I picked up the last time I was in Mexico from a winery I really like called El Cheto. Obviously, haven't been traveling in a while, so it's I've been holding on to it since November, I think. Yeah, it's really deep and challenging, just like the book. It just
got your Red Wolf in a cup, huh?
Yeah. I was gonna try to invent a cocktail in honor of the book, but I was like, that'll take too much time. That'll take too much time.
You still might be able to do that for next book, I think. Maybe, to maybe thematically tie into it. I feel like I have a pitch. Remind me about the pitch.
Okay, I'm all for that.
Also, Rachel's in the chat as well.
Oh, that's great.
He would not have gotten through it without book club either. And especially without Stephen's note and guidance. So
absolutely, yeah.
We're very thrilled for that. Yeah, a lot of people saying that the first 100 pages were really rough, but it was like once you get that feel, it was going really, really well. There's another great one. Avery said, I'm grateful for this book club making me read it in the first place. So I think it's like, we are understanding that a lot of art and a lot of literature isn't supposed to feel good, but it's supposed to kind of put you in a different mindset. And something that I've noticed about my reading habits is that I'm very much in a comfort zone, and I have been for about 15 years. I like what I like, and that's, what I'm inundating myself with, to the point where it's like I'm almost becoming an expert in particular tropes in this little view scope that I'm, looking through. So for me to read this book and be not only challenged, but kicked outside of my comfort zone, I honestly feel like my face was smushed into the shit that they constantly talk about. And I had to wear it, breathe it in,
Yeah.
And I do believe that I am better for it. And I do want to shout out to the book club members. Some of those who bought the book and acknowledged that it was too much for them. Like, I really respect you in that, and what your limits are. But others who maybe didn't necessarily want to read this book, but within the community felt that they wanted to be a part of the discussion and understand this, and they went and did it. Like,
it's an awesome
both
community.
are really respectable in my eyes.
I totally agree.
I actually reached out to Marlon James's people because for the after show, I really wanted to have a book club discussion with Marlon James to talk about the book. And I got a very resounding, he is busy writing the trilogy. Like, he is under the pump trying to get this book out. So, I mean, I understand that, but I'm just letting you guys know that I'm wanting to dig a little deeper.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to echo the sentiments too, before we keep going, is again, to thank the community, because the community had such amazing conversations, and sometimes they were rough, but it was always such a great supportive place. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody has done a fantastic job of tackling this material. And I think, Maude, what you're saying, it is totally okay to have a comfort zone. I think everybody has that comfort zone. And it reminds me of, like, I love what I love in terms of TV, movies, whatever, but there's been multiple times where a show has been so good that I'm like, I got to check this out. I tried watching Mad Men season 1. And at the end of that I gave it a season, and I'm like, this is a great show, not for me. Yeah. Rachel would hate me because it's like her favorite show ever. But same thing with Game of Thrones. Absolutely. Yeah, right. And it's like, I like to at least try that occasionally to see what the trends are and what people are enjoying and what is it about it that they're enjoying, and how I can see that influence in the rest of popular culture. And so it's always valuable to step outside your comfort zone. So let's just jump in. We got some chapters to get through.
Yes. Now, last week we actually didn't get time to cover 19 and 20. So
we stopped in the middle of 19. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is a shorter portion, we wanted to give it the time and energy that it deserved. So we're going to start back a little bit so that we can cover.
There we go. Chapter 19. Here's what happens in chapter 19. We ended last time just as Tracker had been saved after being tortured by the white scientists for the location of the boy. Then the boy escapes with Sansabonsam and the Ipundulu through one of the doorways. Jacques goes through the door and pulls Sogolan through. She burns up as the door closes. That was a very cinematic moment. That moment hit very hard for me. Like, it worked. It was fantastic.
Yeah, you
That,
could
right?
That moment is also so great. That just the moment you realize that the second book's going to be from Sogolan's point of view.
Yeah.
That's like,
actually, there's a lot of information. What I really find fascinating about
Mhm.
Marlon James's writing is that in this last quarter of the book, we are being introduced to new lore, LORE.
yeah,
Being introduced to new characters. We have a shift in like the antagonistic, who has the control and the power.
Mhm.
And we also learn about how witches kind of like escalate to get their powers.
Yes.
With the whole girl kidnapping the baby that was, had the clay painting
yeah.
of dismemberment and how to sacrifice this infant so that she can become a witch and gain her powers. And I'm
Oh.
here going, Sogolan is a witch. So how did she become super powerful, and how did she harness the elements, and like
Yeah.
what did it take to get there? And knowing that we're going to get Sogolan's point of view, I was like, oh, giddy up. This is fun.
Maude, when you spelled out lore, Lore, why did you spell it out? What else does lore, when you pronounce it so beautifully, sound like to people?
LAW.
Oh, like court of law?
Law and law.
Okay, I hear it now. Okay, yeah, definitely.
I've been in this
Gotcha.
country for 7.5 years. I know my limits of my language.
You know what's going to trip someone.
Yeah. What's going to make people go, what the heck? Okay, that's great. Wonderful. Okay, so that's chapter 19. Now we can cover chapter 20 and then get into the section for today. Chapter 20, we discussed part of this as well last time, so here's a brief overview. After the crew gets back to Kongor, they ambush and kill the Ipundulu though Sasabonsam escapes. As they bring the boy back to his mother, Aisi has Bunshi and Lissosolo as hostages. Okay.
So we are kind of, I'm a little bit lost, honestly. Things are happening really, really fast, and this is where things are picking up. I've never really understood Bunshi, separate from Sogolan. That's actually been a little bit of a blurred character sense for me. Stephen, what's your take on Bunshi?
I thought at the beginning when Bunshi first shows up and he's so afraid of her because there's all the talk of like how she's similar to the Omaluzu, I thought she was going to be a huge part of the book.
Yeah.
And maybe she's not a huge part of this one, but now I sort of have this sort of trust where I think if he's putting something in, there is a reason for it. So maybe if her story is kind of disappointing during this one, maybe in the next two, it will be different. Because I totally agree. Like, she was set up as this like crazy, we're having a supernatural. Is she a goddess? Is she just a spirit who's pretending to be a goddess? Is she this? Is she that? Like, I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah. What's her take? What's her relationship with the boy? That was always a little muddled for me. Yeah.
Although like, and this didn't even occur to me as I was reading until right now. It's like, if she was a goddess, she's literally has her throat slit by the god butcher. Like, it's like, of course the god butcher kills her. Like, if you have a character named the god butcher and you have a character who's a god in the same story,
and then you have Tracker who doesn't believe in gods,
and you gotta cross him,
trying to diminish god worship. Maybe she actually in fact was a goddess, and that was why her death was so prevalent to the storytelling. Because I actually joked in a group text thread that we have, I was like, drink every time someone says fuck the gods, and it's like we'd be obliterated, because that's the message in this.
Absolutely.
Yeah Alrighty, so that's Bunshi.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And like, you want to talk about things being muddled, I'll be honest, this is a little Hector confession time. The last week's section, our assigned reading, I felt like I connected to and sort of understood throughout more. And this section felt a little bit like, like Maude was saying, new elements are being introduced. And I didn't know if it was falling action. I didn't know if we were hitting the sort of like zenith of the story and kind of when things were happening. I was not even aware that Lissy Solo was a hostage until just now. And I read that because I know Lissy Solo is part of the story that they told about the mythology of the world and how that all set up. But I didn't know that she was a hostage. So that's a new thing that I just learned just now, which is great.
Because her son was prophesied to be the dark cloud over the king. But even though she held greatness, like, wasn't it previously all the women were made nuns because,
yes,
they didn't.
Yeah.
this is the old times where women don't have or should not have power, and she almost challenged that. For me, the confusing part of this last portion, I thought I had a handle on Nika, but then they went back again, but then he's become like a version of the Impandulu. When did he get his lightning powers? When did he have wings? Is this a new thing? What's his relationship with
Nasaka.
Yep, Nasaka.
Oh, that was something that
that was Black Flash. I did it again. Flashback as well as like storytelling, but then it was through a different point of view because the Griot.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Griot, went on this massive song kind of depicting the relationship that they had and like filled in 4 years of their life. I was just like,
yeah, I think at the end of last week's reading, right before the sort of standoff we got at the end, they run across Nasaka and Nika, who had been infected with the lightning but was acting like one of the crazy like zombified people, and then in the 4-year time skip, that's when he had changed. Because even when they meet up with Nika again, Tracker's like, what happened? And Nika's like, I literally remember getting infected with lightning, and then I remember waking up as the Impandulu. I don't remember anything in the middle, including when we talked, because apparently we talked and I don't remember any of that. And Tracker's kind of like, okay, super convenient that you don't remember all the bad shit you did, sort of thing.
Yeah. I really great because we're going to be doing fan castings as well, and like having sort of what people are imagining here. The Tamaranian said, did anyone else picture Zapdos whenever they talked about the Impandulu? Zapdos.
The Pokemon Zapdos?
Yes. Was it one of the legendary Pokemon, which is basically like a lightning bird?
I think
I had a couple of thoughts about this. Hector, what did you see with the Impandulu?
I saw like classic sort of comic book shit where characters that had lightning. And here's also another weird observation when it comes to you want to talk about comic book tropes. This is a weird thing that is true, and I don't know why, but I think it's very interesting, is that there are many modern superhero comic book characters who are Black or African American who are also given lightning powers. And it's like, when you stop and think about it for a second, you go, oh, wait a minute. And you can count like 5 or 6, like to the point where, that's a weird trope that's involved with the Black community or African-American characters within these worlds. You've got Storm, obviously, and she comes from Africa within the Marvel Comics. You've got Black Lightning. I think like Black Vulcan, which is the same thing as Black Lightning, but in Super Friends. You have Static Shock, who's another like young character, kind of like Miles Morales or Spider-Man type character. There's some other ones. I don't know, maybe like, I just think it's very interesting that there's like a handful of pretty popular and well-known Black characters that get some sort of lightning ability to them. So to answer your question, Maude, anytime visually that was coming up, I was picturing people just kind of in pain as lightning was sort of shooting through them. Maybe almost like a Palpatine thing, like that.
I got a Palpatine thing when it was rippling in through their body, like on the ground. I got that. But with my mythology, there is a video game called Heroes of Might and Magic 3, which has introduced me to a lot of mythical characters and creatures. One of them being Rock, which is a enormous legendary bird of prey in popular mythology of the Middle East. And then the Thunderbird, which is actually the Northern American indigenous people. That is, it's like kind of like a rock, but has lightning effects. And so I kind of pictured the Impandulu as a Thunderbird. And if you guys want to Google that, what it looks like.
I kind of was thinking about that. And I also what I really liked about it is like, obviously there's some sort of like vampiric thing to it as well. Eats hearts, people sort of like very classically become enthralled to it, which is like very much a
cool.
But also, guys, I'm gonna be real, Chernobog.
Sure.
I got Chernobog vibes from this.
From Disney.
Yep.
Oh wait, no, from Lord of the Rings.
Chernobog, I think, was in Lord of the Rings. Chernobog was also in American Gods, and Chernobog was in Fantasia.
That's what it is. Yeah. Okay, great. I was right on all points. Great.
Yeah.
Great comment from Rachel Heine talking about this book and the overall club. Rachel, she said, "I feel like Dune and Black Leopard, Red Wolf both challenged me in different ways," and I agree 100%. I think the next book is just going to be comfort zone for me when we get to that homework assignment. But yeah, yep, absolutely, that's Fantasia.
Yeah, that's
Very
the
good.
Impandulu in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Cool.
That's who Nika was.
What's the name of the thing in Lord of the Rings that Gandalf fights and then it tears him
Balrog.
down?
Balrog.
Balrog. Different Og.
then
Okay.
the-
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
And this is not for this time, but there's a whole debate as to whether in the books the Balrog actually has wings or not. And that is like one of the OG like nerd debates of like, and then the movies had wings, and so yeah, I guess he has wings.
Yeah.
No, in the video game he didn't. Oh, I see them now. Damn.
Oh.
They almost are like a flame kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Min,
Very
I've
interesting.
gone deep. Yeah.
I'm going to go with, I say, let's go ahead and settle that debate right now. This is Nerdist Book Club. I will say that the side we will settle on is if it's in the movie, it counts more. So he has wings. So there you go. That's the answer. 100%. That's our policy every time. 100%. If Rachel's not here, she's going to be so mad.
I'm calling an audible.
That's
I
it.
agree with that.
Oh no, press the wrong button. He's
Oh,
got
very
wings.
cool. He does.
He's got
does.
wings.
He does. Maude, careful not to show us any like bank accounts or passwords or anything. When you keep pulling, he's making me nervous every time you're showing us your computer screen.
Yeah, it's Black Leopard, Red Wolf, Reddit.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I think we are caught up to where we are. We can talk about this sort of final section. So let's start with chapter 21. Here's what happens in this, according to the wonderful summation from Stephen. Aisi wants to trade the boy for Bunshi. He says the boy will not turn into anything good. He spent too much time with monsters. There's a fight and both Bunshi and Sedogo die. Have to talk about this.
Yeah, it's time. Even that first part, the fact the boy's relationship and spending too much time with monsters, this boy didn't stand a chance. And what's really kind of, when we talk about prophecies and what's going on here, the boy was plucked from his mother because he was going to be deemed a threat, but then became addicted to like the blood of the Impandulu. So it's like became sort of like a blood addict. And then its only companions were monsters. So obviously the Stockholm syndrome was kind of taking effect here, where he was surrounded by evil. This kid was sentenced to like the worst sort of existence possible and did not stand a chance from that. Yep. So I kind of like, there was a while where I was like, why are they so keen to kill and destroy this child? It's just a child. Do we not understand innocence? And then I realized, oh, no.
Yeah, I'm not saying I condone the path they were taking, but at the end I was, I understood it. I understood it.
They dehumanized.
Should not have been king for certain.
Yeah.
No.
At the very least, even if
this was set up like if you could kill King Joffrey type of a thing. Is that what, again, another comparison to Game of Thrones? Is this, is this sort of set up like, if you had an opportunity, would you kill baby Hitler? That sort of thing. That's what they were kind of trying to set this up.
It kind of is. Yeah.
It is.
What would you do?
Kill baby Hitler instantly. No doubt.
I would totally pluck him from his family and then raise him with demons and then get him addicted to like blood.
Okay. That's good.
There you go. And I think history will show that's the right
book is warped.
Yeah. If I, in all honesty, had to answer that question, if there was some magical wish, some magical time travel that I could do, and it would not destroy, but it would save lives potentially, or even just create another alternate timeline like Avengers Endgame time travel rules. It's like, look, you can't change your own timeline, but go back and create a branch, starting in the 20s or whatever, that is going to be different. And you just take out the equation of Adolf Hitler. I would consider it. I would consider trying to.
Why don't you just go back further and make sure that Dad has a snip? There
you go. Right?
That's humane-ish.
Honestly, that saves a lot of headaches right there. That's it. The time travel, the people that are time traveling to give vasectomies to bad men's fathers. I love that. I would watch that movie all day. That sounds amazing.
If you were half dead and you're in the forest and there was a unicorn, would you kill the unicorn to drink the blood, knowing that the rest of your life would be cursed and you would be living a half-life?
No, of course not. I would just die.
Baby Hitler would.
Baby Hitler would.
Baby Hitler would. So that's
this
where we're going to
child would.
Wow, I didn't think we were going to go baby Hitler in today's conversation, but okay, here we go.
Right.
That's what this book does. It makes
I know.
you just face all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I'm sure this is what Marlon James wanted people to bring up.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Would not be shocked. He was like, yeah, awesome. Here's the part I want to talk about. Sadogo dying.
Yeah.
Because when that moment happened, I went, wait, what?
Yeah.
And went back, and I don't think I've done this once while powering through and reading this entire book or since, but I went back and reread. I went back a few pages and I was like, wait a minute, no. And then reread it. And you tell me if I'm wrong. As far as I read it, Sadogo falls into like a hole, almost like when Paul Bettany Vision was forced by Scarlet Witch to get really heavy, and then the Vision just like went through the floors of the Earth at the Avengers compound in Captain America: Civil War. I'm just saying, I don't think Sadogo's dead. Thoughts?
I don't want him to be dead, but this is the thing where Marlon James has proven time and time again he's not protecting us. He's not, nurturing us. He's not holding us gently. He is obliterating and violating us. And he has made the most precious character who we love and we yearn for. And of course, he was so sweet that his mind was manipulated. His dreams were, obliterated. They used the biggest, strongest man because he had a good heart, that he became the weakest in that sense and could take advantage of him. The whole time, Sadogo has been mourning his life. He has been, using his newfound friends as a confessional, just to be like, I have killed so many people. I do not like death. I do not like what this brings. I am trying to save people. And I think that reading these portions, hearing Ayesi say, I couldn't get you, Tracker. You weren't sleeping. This heavy sleeper. I had a field day. And then why don't I humiliate Sadogo further by telling you all of your fantasies back to you and just stab right in the gut and heart. So I think the way that Sadogo passed, which was these, I call them almost like the night terrors, but these like animals, whatever they are, spirits, what would you call them? They're kind of like a whites, W-I-G-H-T.
Yeah, it was interesting because you just assumed that AC had these like telekinetic powers, and then when you realized they were really just these invisible creatures he was controlling, cool and terrifying.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know what I think we don't know exactly what they are because Tracker doesn't have the point of view to know what they are.
The mentor kind of white, kind of that sort of thing. And he was absolutely covered in them. And I got a bit of a vibe from like Hodor.
Yeah.
That sort of moment.
We mentioned it before.
Someone with the good heart who's really supposed to be doing the right thing gets swarmed, and for him to try and save himself by falling through the floor and then becoming sort of like black, and you can't see down there and you don't know of his existence. That's like the saddest way for Sadogo to go.
Yeah. But listen,
Sad way to go.
That's what we thought happened to Gandalf when he went up against that Balrog with wings or without wings. That's all I'm saying is I would not be surprised if Sadogo.
Wings. I remember them.
I would not be surprised if Sadogo shows up in part 2, part 3, whatever Marlon James is going to do. But Maude's also right. Marlon James does not care about our feelings and will reach through this computer and rip out our hearts. Okay, so continuing on with chapter 21. At this point, the crew, Lissy Solo and the boy, escape to the mysterious Meru land. They escape to the mysterious Meru land. This thus concludes the first quest to find the boy. Now we're in chapter 22. Tracker finally admits to the Inquisitor that he did indeed spend 4 years in Mitu. Tracker and Mosi...
Oh, he did? Me too.
Yeah, me too. Tracker and Mosi raised the Mingi children together, which is great. Tracker again wants to complete the rites to become a man, but again stops. Tracker and Mosi bring the children to meet Tracker's Mosi. Thank you. Bring the children. I should know because I grew up in Southern California, San Diego, and Mosi Nissan. That was the car dealership. They were great. They had a jingle that is still an earworm to this day. So Tracker and Mosi bring the children to meet Tracker's mother and make amends. Tracker leaves this new life when Leopard shows back up, promising adventure.
I want to go back to Tracker and Mossy. So Mossy basically enacted or has become Tracker's therapist. Face your demons, face your past. You know that you behave like this because of your relationship with women. We need to address this. And I think that this was a really powerful moment that Tracker actually couldn't continue forward without facing his past. And the relationship that he had with women this entire book has been really quite damaging. And so I thought that this was a really good moment and a good way to understand Tracker a little bit better. And there's not much positivity in this book, but Mossy is such a positive force on Tracker. And Tracker, I mean, I think I asked last week, is he running from or is he running to? And I felt like with his past, he was running from a lot of the time and following whatever is ahead, not looking back. But to actually stop and address it was really therapeutic for me to read. And I was like, good, Tracker, you've got to put in the work.
I think
it's better for everyone.
Yeah, I think in a lot of like books and movies and TV shows, when there is a sort of like, I think a lot of people would classify Tracker as like an anti-hero.
Yes.
Because while he's doing heroic things, he's never doing them for the right reasons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
he becomes a bit
oftentimes,
he becomes a soulless killer in this portion.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, whoa, buddy, we were making progress and now you're slaughtering kids without a blink. Oh,
yeah.
Like he was scared.
I think oftentimes like that sort of character can really revel in the sort of portrayal of like toxic masculinity. And the fact that we had a character who was like that for 75% of the book, and then in one chapter, like confronted it and repaired his relationship with his mother, and then sort of learned and then went back to that lifestyle was so sad.
Really emotional things would happen. And his lack of empathy upon hearing bad news or when really catastrophic things were happening, he was just kind of like, yeah, so that happened. And you're like, whoa, come on, someone get this Tin Man a heart.
Yeah. It puts a lot of the earlier book in perspective too, because like for like half the book we're like, why does he not want to talk about the 4 years he spent here? What's he hiding? And he's hiding the fact that he loved someone and he lost that person. Like he wasn't hiding anything. He was hiding from pain. Like he wasn't like, sad. That's all.
That was the most vulnerable sort of we'd ever seen him, and he just compartmentalized it. And that is exactly what toxic masculinity is.
Yeah.
You know, even if you put in the work, it doesn't mean that they're going to be better.
Absolutely.
And that's a choice. That's a choice that he made. But I will say he became more and more of like I was going to say vigilante, but it's not like he was becoming the thing that he despised. Like the way that he was handling situations with severe lack of empathy, but you know, that sociopathic kind of mindset where if it's like, can you stop and think for a second about what it is you're doing? And he's like, no questions, no consequences. It's just like, I will end this person's life. I will kill that. I will obliterate. Like, I know that the girl, the witchling, I guess, who was about to sacrifice a baby, like that is unacceptable and that is not okay. And she has power lust and is willing to do very bad things for it. But he's like kind of manipulating her. Like he's emotionally playing with her. Like, it wasn't just, I will stop evil. It was, I'm going to torment her and I'm going to think that she's escaping and I'm going to count to 10. So she turns and books it and he puts an axe in the back of her head. And these ways that he's killing, like it was hard to read. I'm like, oh, buddy, like in the face.
Yeah. Like the little strands of skin dangling, stuff like that. It's like, I wonder how and if this would ever be adapted into any kind of live action project, how this character would stay the same or how this character would change to translate into this project, because I feel like it is such a tough sell. And again, it's Marlon James, I think, breaking those writing rules 101 of having a very relatable and altruistic and heroic protagonist. And this character Tracker is the opposite of that. And there's still something very compelling about him, but is would the live action take on this character be helped by an actor like Michael B. Jordan playing the role? I'm like, yeah, I think so. But also, it would be really a bummer to see somebody like Michael B. Jordan do and say the stuff that Tracker is. That, like, even that, I'm like, that's
It would be rough for
crazy.
anyone. Yeah.
It would be rough. You know,
But
people
yeah.
settling down to watch this cool new movie or TV show, and then like it's just, you know, and I mean specifically with the depiction of Tracker, not necessarily the violence and everything that we've been talking about. Of course, that's all rated R, and people should know what they're getting into before they watch a thing. But I'm even like how Tracker is portrayed, and the fact that he regresses to that lifestyle. It's brutal. We got some comments in the chat from folks about this section, Sadogo dying, right? Tim and Daisy said, so sad about Sadogo. Right, he's not dead. Or maybe he is. Good point, Maude. Miss Necromancer said, the pacing of it was so perfect and horrible and heart-wrenching. Also, earlier, to the point of that conversation earlier, our producer B-Comp reminded me that even Miles Morales, black character who has spider powers, still has a little electrical element because he has that like stinger that he can do. He has that thing that he can like, you know, sting people with, which is really funny. So here's a great comment. Darian B. Harry says, hey, if you like the African mythological setting, strongly recommend the Imaro series from Charles Saunders. So that's a great recommendation right there. That's very cool. Okay, so let's see. We've got some
the Camaranian. Can you imagine watching Black Leopard movie with someone who has not read the book?
That would be. I would feel like I would have my own Red Wedding moment. Like I would just be like.
That was my first thought. It would be watching an entire series or movie, just trying to watch someone else's reaction the whole time.
I would also be like 30%. Is that what happened? Oh,
yeah, that's
for sure.
It would put some stuff to rest.
And I would be sitting down with that person, that friend or family member that would be watching it, and they would be turning to me being like, you like this book? And I'd be like, I don't know, it's hard, but I read it and now I'm invested in you watching it. This is fun. That would be my perspective.
It's interesting to see the screen adaptation because there are far too many characters with storylines that actually don't eventuate, or you know, 5 characters that could be probably condensed into one from time to time. So I'd really like to see what this streamlined version looks like.
Me too,
are they going to focus on the flashbacks? Are they going to focus on the quest, the prophecy? Like what are they going to do to make it succinct? Because this is not. But I think I told you I bought my mom and dad the book. I sent them a copy. Yeah, because I was like, I have this thing as well where it's like, well, if I had to go through that, then you have to as well.
And that's why I want to watch The Exorcist with you, Maude. That's all. Okay. Next chapter, chapter 23. Okay, great. So we covered a bit of that. Okay, cool. So chapter 23.
Because I was just covered with the tracking down the young witch, and then it leads through worse and worse and worse people until you find Nika at the end as the new
with the scientist. I was like, this doesn't even feel like it's in the same world.
It was weird.
The description of the town was really interesting with these tunnels, and there are bad areas that are so bad that no one uses locks on their doors, and you're just like, where are we? But it was a fleeting moment.
The worst place.
Yeah. I thought that one city that had all of the children living in the walls was maybe the worst place, but this one was pretty rough.
It gave it a run for its money, sadly.
Chapter 23, we've talked about it, but the story picks up sometime later while Tracker is in the witches market in Malangika. He tracks down Nika, who has transformed into a new Ipendulu. So now we are in chapter 24, content warning. Nika explains how he became an Ipendulu. After that, his memory is gone until he's completely transformed and murders Nasaka and the Vampy.
This is his redemption piece. We have hated and loathed Nika through Tracker's perspective. They have had a deep-seated history where Nika has betrayed Tracker and put him through quite literal hell, being kidnapped by the trio of hyena women. And he's never really forgiven him for that. But then we get more of an understanding of who Nika is, and he himself is a tragedy, and the things that he's gone through. And I think that the amount of time that's passed, they've both got war wounds. You know, their soul has been tarnished through the process of this book. But the reason why he's become an Ipandulu is because the initial Ipandulu was about to rape Nasaka Navampi, and he said, "Don't do it to her, do it to me instead." And it went, okay. And so that's why he's been forever cursed, because he was trying to save someone that he loves.
Yeah. And the
that you're like,
yeah,
oh,
and
that's a good thing.
the fact that he saved her, and then when he turns, the first thing he does is kill her. It's like, what? It's like, there's a lot of rough things in this book, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
you can't help but think about any sort of adaptation, and it's like, that's just going to be another brutal moment that an audience would be like, no, oh no. It's just horrifying. So then Tracker wants to team up with Naika to find the boy who left his mother to reunite with Sasabansam. Tracker hopes the boy will come to find the new Ipandulu. Tracker has also teamed up with Aisi. Tracker promised Aisi the boy's death in exchange for help escaping Muerwu and killing Sasabansam.
So this is what's interesting again. I kind of want to stop you there as well.
Yeah, please.
Initially, this group, Sadogo, Leopard, Spagolan, sometimes Bunshi.
They were the crew.
Your core Avengers team. And then all of a sudden, and they were fighting against the AAC, because when AAC kind of, presented himself, you were like, oh, bad guy. This is our antagonist. Like, he is not good. He's a threat. He has ultimate power. He has abilities. He's got magic powers that are frightening. Like, he's so calm, and the most fearful sort of, like, I think, antagonist that we have is one that doesn't get phased by extreme things and doesn't ever feel like they're being threatened, because
he always is in power.
That is, and he's like frightening. And so Tracker was always kind of like, all right, AAC, if I see you, I'm dead. And AAC would almost mock him. Remember that time where they're like fighting and he kind of flies off and he's like, no, I'm yelling at you, acknowledge me, you want to kill me. And he's just like, peace, bud, doesn't even acknowledge him. It's just like so empty from that. And then now has joined him.
And even just joining a new Ipandulu after the whole first quest was, we're looking for an Ipandulu. Like, it's such an interesting,
so much growth, works on himself, and then teams up with his enemy and like sides with the people that he's been trained to hate. And that's when I was like, has Tracker become the bad guy?
Good question.
I mean, I was thinking about that whole last section, because again, the thing that has informed my reading is from the beginning of this book is the knowledge of this is part one of a trilogy, and the other sections are going to be from a different character's perspective. And I could not help but think, what if this whole book is being set up to be like, you think Tracker is this type of character, but when you look at what Tracker's actions are and his words and some of what he does from another character's, he's going to be the antagonist in another book. He's going to be
definitely
a bad guy. He's going to be the villain in another book. So I think that's very interesting. Yeah.
I mean, especially
as a hero though.
Yeah.
Especially anti-hero, sure.
No, like spoilers, but like the last line of the book is basically him saying like, I know the next book I'm the bad guy. Like literally the last line of the book is him saying,
Tell me.
I know you think I'm the bad guy. Tell me how I'm the bad guy. Like,
that was I think that was Marlon James again, just flexing and being like,
a little bit.
Okay, check this out.
Settle in for the long haul, everyone.
So obviously the chat's going off here. Miss Necromancer, what if Tracker was lying the entire time to seem more sympathetic to the Inquisitor? What if he's always the monster? Lauren saying Tracker might not have been the bad Tracker might have been the bad guy the whole time, really. And Avery said Tracker's emotions or lack thereof at the end of the story came through so strongly in that last section. This last portion really is Tracker's demise as far as I'm concerned. And he was like almost like projected to be the good guy with the redemption piece, and like he was had clarity, he had his soulmate, and then he spiraled into such a dark place. So which one is true? Has he been completely shifting the story in his favor? That's a really fascinating point. I think perspective is the most interesting thing about this book. And that's the lesson.
From a certain point of view,
exactly. And I think by the end of the trilogy, I don't think we're ever going to be handed a definite answer of this is the absolute truth. This is who did the right thing and when they did the right thing, and this is who did the wrong thing and when they did the wrong thing. I think at the end of the day, we're just going to have to pick and choose and then try to decide for ourselves, do we like this person because of our own personal biases, or do we dislike this person because for the same reasons?
It's so interesting. I mean, there was a section in the last chapter, I think, that almost took me out of the book because Tracker kind of turned to the camera, turned to the reader, and was like,
Yeah.
this is what stories are. Stories are a person's point of view and perspective, and that could change. Like there was something in there in the language like that I was kind of like, oh boy. I mean, I feel like this is the sort of thesis of this
Yeah.
story in terms of what Marlon James is trying to say about narrative and about fiction and whatever, and it fit, but it did almost take me out because it did feel a little bit like, here's the message of the book almost. So then back to the sort of sequence of events. The trio comes to a village that has been under attack by Sasabansum. They're attacked by the lightning thralls before spotting Sasabansum and giving chase. Tracker runs into a group of Lissisolo's soldiers. Among them is Leopard. After the Iaisi and
I'm going to stop you there as well. Miss Necromancer made this great point as well, which I completely agree with. The pacing of this portion of the book is really well done. Marlon is packing a lot in here. The pivoting of the group, because this is always something where the wolf is supposed to be a lone wolf, but he's constantly sort of like surrounded by people to help him with his mission, even though the mission changes from time to time. But we found with June, that last sort of portion, it was like, and it's over. Yeah. And here I felt like the pacing was a lot better. And I feel like it's almost I don't think writers mean to do it, but they pack so much in and don't often do it justice. But I really do feel like these last couple of chapters are paced incredibly well. Continue.
Absolutely. There's some other great comments here in the chat. Becky Miller says, I have a few friends, family asking if I liked the book to see if they should read it. All I can say is you need to read it all to know if you like it. Then you still may not know, which I think is I think that's a great take.
That's the best way to put it.
It's the best way to put it. Yeah. I mean, did you guys already read this comment? Another great one from Miss Necromancer talking about Tracker. Tracker became the biggest monster because he now has nothing to lose, right? Did we cover that? No, it's a great comment. Clever Girl says, did he side with them or just see them as a means to an end? There's so many great comments.
Even if he just saw them as a means to an end, he's still, by working with them, he's still signing off on their point of view to an extent.
Sadogo, and now buddies. What?
Yeah.
Whatever. But I like that point about having nothing to lose, because that's those people are dangerous.
Let me power through this other stuff because Maude has a great question that I want to get to. Garrett has a great question that I want to get to. So after the Iaisi and Nika stop the soldiers, the trio ride away on horses but are chased by Leopard. Iaisi sucks Leopard into the ground, burying him. Chapter 25.
Read again that Leopard has been absent for so long when he's the titular character.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I do not feel like, I feel like this book should have been called Red Wolf. I feel like Leopard was not a centric character.
Black Leopard was a red herring. Is that what you're saying?
Black Leopard, red herring.
I don't think enough of Tracker's storyline was dependent enough on Leopard to have that double, like the evenly weighted name of the book.
Yeah. Or if it was, I mean, I think the way you put that was beautifully put, Maude. Like the impact of this character on Tracker's life. It had to have been massive for it to be half of the title. And if that was the case, then maybe to me, I didn't feel like that was something that I felt, basically. Do you know what I mean? Like if this was a character who just had such an impact on this young man and shaped him and helped him become the man that he would become, then maybe I didn't quite understand that, or maybe the story could have explored that a little bit more. I don't know, but I think it's very interesting to when we get to the end of the book to go back and even look at the cover, look at the title, and go, what does that mean? You know? Yeah, Maude, you've got to comment, you got to read it. Your mouth just flung open.
Ian Powell, but is Leopard who the Inquisitor actually wants to know about?
What?
Yeah. I know. That's why I was like,
come on, man.
This book is.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God.
So many layers.
That's a great question. Like, it definitely makes it feel like either this person has an outside weight to the story that we're not seeing, or is this person's point of view what we're really getting after? Boy, I mean, that's what the sequels are going to address, I guess.
Our next book is going to be a breeze. Okay, great. So here's what happens to kind of round this out. Tracker gets separated and captured by a white scientist who's become the man spider. He tells his
need
story.
To make a point on the man spider.
Please do.
In the Audible, I did not like the voice at all, and would do this.
Nope.
Like a lot, frequently through it, to the point where I have to like take.
Gross.
I don't like
spiders.
I really didn't
mac
like
and
that.
cheese. I don't like that.
So I wasn't really listening to this portion.
So here's what happens. Okay, man spider. He tells his story. The boy led Sasabansam to Masi and the children, killing them. Now Tracker burns with revenge. Tracker follows a specter of Masi to find Nika tied up and unconscious, with the boy sneaking up on him. When Tracker tries to kill the boy, Sasabansam shows up and they fight. The fight is pretty hard. Tracker stabs Sasabansam in the eyes, and Nika ends up roasting the monster with lightning. Then Tracker and Nika come across the boy being protected by Sogolan and Leopard. There are two sides, one wanting to save the boy for the kingdom, one wanting to destroy the boy as a monster. Leopard switches sides and tries to attack the boy, but Sogolan pins him to a tree with his own sword. Aisi shows up and stops Sogolan. He says the old succession ways Sogolan wants to restore were just as bad as the new one because of incest. Aisi says a united land, even under a mad king, is the only way for the lands to survive an upcoming worse war with the West. What they said were like people were red and people were white. And I'm like, that has to be European people. That has to be that. And red people, I'm like, what's red people? Like Native American people or
I don't know.
Indian people?
It just felt like yeah.
Or
I mean,
tribes, like
possibly.
Yeah.
It did feel like, what I'm saying is, I know we talked about this before with the white scientists, and then they sort of describe them as not really having European features or whatever. This really does feel like the first time this story is acknowledging a kind of a European influenced culture outside of the African influenced fantasy world.
I think Marlon James is smart enough to know that when he describes a worse threat coming from the West with white and red skin, I think he's smart enough to know what our minds are going to jump to. So if he left it in there, I think that's got to be what he's saying. And just like even the way he describes, like throughout the book, it's all like white is the color of nothingness, or what we would call
Evil
in
magic.
our Western, what we would call in our Western culture, black magic, they call white science. And like he knows exactly what he's working against, and what he knows exactly what words he's using and why he's using it. So like, I think if he's using the word that this threat from the West is people who are white, I think it's safe to make an assumption.
So then the big moment happens. Nika kills the boy and himself with lightning. Leopard dies in Tracker's arms, the first person that Tracker loved. Tracker leaves Sogolan behind and walks until he's arrested, leading to his confession to the Inquisitor. The book ends with Tracker wanting to know what parts of Sogolan's testimony contradict his. That's how the book ends. There's so much else to continue to talk about. So the thing I want to get to is, Maude had a great question. Would we recommend this book to someone? I've been thinking about this a lot. I want to go first. I feel like it would depend on the person fully. It would depend on it. Do I know the person well enough to feel comfortable making a recommendation of being like, I think you'd really be into this for XYZ reasons. I think you would be okay with this book for XYZ, graphic reasons. I think that comes from really kind of knowing a person. And it would be difficult for me to blanketly say, this book is mainstream, this book is for everybody, try it out. I'm like, I don't think that's the case. I think that it comes with a specific type of person who enjoys a specific type of story. Maude, what about you?
I think, for book lovers that really do want to delve into a completely unknown sort of genre, even though this is fantasy, this is unlike any book I've ever read, and it's so incomparable to anything else. So I think for people that want a challenge, maybe they thought June next, it's like, all right. But then to also preface, there are going to be time jumps. There's going to be flashbacks. There's going to be some really brutal vulgarity or, language or violence, just to get over that particular hurdle. There's probably a handful of people that I would recommend this to, and the majority I just would not.
Yeah. Tim and Daisy says definitely depends on the person, but I would recommend it. Becky Miller talking about the title Black Leopard, Red Wolf. I thought it had something to do with how Leopard impacted Tracker. Every time something big happened to Tracker, unless I'm forgetting something, Leopard was there. Lauren E said, yeah, I also thought about Leopard and Tracker as a yin-yang position / relationship. And then the Tamaranian commented on Maude's spider voice saying they've weaponized ASMR.
This is what I was going to say earlier, where it's like everything is almost an assault on you. It's like the language is an assault. How it's written is really quite hard. And then the audio, again, is like ramming this in, where you're like, okay.
I get it.
But the other question that I wanted to pose to everyone, why is Tracker called Red Wolf?
Right.
Leopard, Black Leopard, super easy. He turns into a leopard. Red Wolf. Is he turning into a wolf? Is he supposed to be the lone wolf? Is it all about the fact that he's riding with a pack? Is it because of the eye? Why is he Red Wolf?
I know that there was a part in this last section that, I mean, even this section being called like white magic, black math or something like that. Like that line popped up in this very last chapter. And I'm like, oh, there it is. They said the thing. Somebody was describing Tracker as being red something, R-E-D, at some point somewhere.
I think part of it was in the tribes, the river tribes where he comes from, a lot of them, I think especially the women, because it comes back to people saying he has too much like woman parts in him.
Right.
They do paint themselves with like red coloring.
Cool.
I think that's part of it. I think there's so many reads on why anything in this book is described in any way. I think for me to say, oh, it's because he has a wolf eye and his skin might be red at some points, I think would be missing half the point.
Probably. I mean, I also just think it's a great title. Black Leopard, Red Wolf.
It is a good title. It is a good title.
Awesome. Stephen, I'd love to know from you. Correct. Stephen, love to know from you. Would you recommend the book? Let's talk about that.
I agree with what you say. I have an in-person book club that I do. Well, not in person. We also do it over video chat now. But we always end each time we virtually meet with on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend this to people? And I think with this book, it's for me to put it on that scale would be impossible, because I think for the right person, a 10 every time.
Yeah.
There are certain people I want to recommend it to so much. And then certain people, either they're not in the right position because they'll struggle with some of the things. They're not into wanting at this time a super intense read because life is intense. Like, I think for certain people that want to be challenged and are okay with being challenged in this moment, absolutely. And want a book that shows a different point of view than what we see a lot in fantasy. I think for those people, I will 100% recommend it. But otherwise, no, keep your mental health safe. Like, it really comes down to like, it's not the right choice for everyone, but for the people who it is the right choice for, it is 100% the right choice.
I also want to, again, thank everybody in the community for like taking a chance on this book. I know that in this past month, we were talking about reading more things from Black authors. And I love that. I love that everybody was obviously on board with that. And I feel like that would be another good reason to recommend the book, is to truly be like, look, if you're already if you're not somebody who's Black or African-American, and you're trying to go outside of maybe what you normally read and what we are normally exposed to, along with this book, there's a bunch of other great books in the fantasy setting and outside of that I think are getting used in conversation more right now. And we can kind of keep that trend going. So for those folks, I think that's another good reason too, is to just read something from this amazing author who obviously knows what he's doing. And it's so, unlike, I think, what mainstream fantasy normally feels like. So guys, we're winding down. Because of the fact that Rachel's out, we're going to be skipping the Discord this week, but we're going to be back next week with our new book. Maude?
Oh, I figure with the Discord, I'm, as you guys know, in the Discord, I've been incredibly underwell. under the
Underwell.
weather and unwell. And I'm going to go straight back to bed after this. And I do apologize that, and Rachel's not well as well. So we kind of called it. Maybe we'll just have this week off only because we've had very, very long after shows. So I figure we've kind of like bought
Rest up.
ourselves a week off.
Feel better.
But
feel
what I
better.
really did want to invite everyone to do, if you are in the Discord and you do have access to reading, let's put in pictures of our fan casting. So let's have a
Yes.
conversation after. I'll meet you in there. I'll have a chat. But I'd love to visualize and see who
That would
these
be cool.
characters could be.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
for the actors. So let's fan cast after this. Thanks, guys. And if you want to get involved, patreon.com/geekbomb. And all you have to do is sign up for the lowest tier, which is $5 a month.
So it's time to announce our
And
next.
also, sorry,
Go ahead.
happy birthday to Geekbomb as well.
Hey, happy birthday.
Yeah.
8 today.
8 years old. That's
8.
the age that Bruce Wayne saw his parents die. Okay, so here it's time to announce.
And on that note,
The pearls just got plucked from my neck.
Yeah. Here is the time to announce our next book. We're having a bit of a palate cleanser after reading 2 very intense books. We're going back to back was the 2 intense books. We're taking a quick trip to the galaxy far, far away by reading a Star Wars book, Claudia Gray's Bloodline. Here we go. Very cool. Stephen and I have physical copies. That's the way to do it.
you
That's
can
the way to
already
do
tell
it.
where the homework is going to be based on where
Ooh.
I have marked it.
Ooh,
I
so
will be buying mine.
your homework is going to be to finish chapter 8 of Star Wars Bloodline and stop at chapter 9, and it is page 92 in the paperback. There we go. 92 is right there. You can check out previous episodes of Nerdist Book Club on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry's YouTubes or Geek and Sundry's Twitches. Make sure that you like and subscribe. This next book is going to be a blasty blast. It's going to be great.
Fun.
Huge thanks to Stephen for stepping in. You're awesome, man. It was so great
Thank
to see
you.
you and hear you
Thank
and
you.
actually
I'm
interact
glad
with
to
you.
see you. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That was awesome. And thanks again to everybody watching. And we'll see you next week with Star Wars Bloodline. Go get it. Go digital get it. And we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.